The final obstacle I'm going to show you for now is the breakable wall. And there's something interesting about the breakable wall. Let's hop into our prefabs and take a look at our wall assets to see what's going on. In here, I've included two different assets, a non-breakable wall and a breakable wall. You'll notice there's also these other ones that have little arrows beside them that show you all of the individual components that make up these walls. This is just a more basic non-breakable wall, but this breakable wall has all the different parts inside of it. You can technically use these in your game, but let me show you the issue. If I drop this in and then rotate it around for the player, this wall in particular, when I add it in, it's going to, well, not do anything because it doesn't have all of the right physics and properties set up in it that I need. So it's just kind of like a placeholder of the image that we want to keep, but not everything's set up properly. I've made for you, luckily, options that are fully complete, like this breakable wall here. Let me rotate this as well. And there's a problem, however, if I use this straight up in my game. The wall collapses under itself immediately, which is kind of a cool effect, but it's not going to be useful for the game mechanic I want, which is to block the character's path with some walls that are not breakable, and then have selective ones potentially be breakable. So why don't I do this for now? I'm just going to have two walls, and let's stretch them a little bit and then move their position so that they kind of cover the whole space. I'll shrink this a little bit more, and let's move this over and shrink it a little bit more so that the player doesn't really have the ability to squeeze between them, but there's two walls here. And right now, both these walls are non-breakable. So even if I dodge this obstacle, I cannot get through, unless of course I manage to glitch through, which I just did. But if I make them a little thicker, I won't be able to glitch through. This little gap here is the problem. I should really tighten that gap up to make the player not be able to get through here. Something to look out for is a little bit of the collision being finicky. That might even be too big a gap as well. You can play around with this and test it out for yourself how much of glitchiness you're willing to suffer. But that mostly solves our problem there. Okay, cool. So I have these two walls. Now, if I just had the breakable wall, excuse me, my voice just went crazy there. Try again. If I just have the breakable wall, like I said before, in my world, let me drop it in. You can see here that if I try to add this in, it immediately breaks and shatters. And I can't just add those in like that. So we have to perform a little bit of a trick. It's a little bit of a magic trick that when the moment the player touches a wall we want to break, swap it out for the breakable wall right then and there. And lucky for you, in the non-breakable walls, I have included already the ability to add a breakable wall to it with this script called a breakable wall. Any wall that I want to have break, so maybe this right wall here, I can drag this script onto it, and it's going to allow me to attach the breakable wall that I want to it. So what I'm going to do is take the breakable wall that I want and stick it in the slot here. The way this is built is now, as soon as the player touches that wall, it is going to, or it should, if all things work as I expect, transform into a breakable wall and shatter. Now you might have noticed a little glitch there where the breakable wall is a bit smaller than the bigger one. So if you're scaling the non-breakable one, the breakable one might look a little bit funny, but the effect still works perfectly fine there. This wall was now breakable. So you have the ability to add walls that don't break and that do break just by adding the breakable wall script and attaching the breakable wall piece to it. So what if you want to make your own customizable breakable objects? In the next video, I'm going to show you how you can make this exact breakable wall in Blender, but you can apply the same principles to any object you want. You could make like a glass urn that in some spots isn't breakable, and other spots you can touch it and it shatters into a bunch of pieces. You can make a window that you can shatter through. But for now, let's just stick with walls. In the next video, I'll show you how you do so.